Right, I am actually fully committed now in my going through the Dvoretsky endgame manual completely project, but I've got to the rook endgames stage, which I mean it's a mountain to climb. I mean it's currently the 1st of November, 2025. I would be astonished if I finished it by the end of the year, but I'm hoping to get a good chunk done by the end of the year. But sort of a little bit terrified by the size of that mountain. I've just decided to take a little break and sort of delaying the inevitable and cover a bishop and knight checkmate, which I've actually had in a game and converted it effortlessly, I would add, because I'd learned how to do it. I think it's worth learning how to do it, not least because you could get it in a game. I think it's like a 1 in 2,000 chess games ends in a bishop and knight checkmate. So, if you're planning on playing 2,000 chess games at some point in your life, then you're going to get it eventually. But there's the transferable skills thing. The interaction of the bishop and the knight is, in my view, you learn about it from going through a bishop and a knight checkmate. I'm going to be broadly following, or the way in which I do it broadly follows the method recommended in the Book of Jesus, but not completely. I've got my own sort of personal touch on it. And the first thing is I tend to do a lot of stuff with just the king and the bishop, first of all. And I've got on the screen in front of you there what I call the right corner cage. So we'll kick off with the right corner cage. Now what I mean by the right corner, you need to know for a bishop and a knight checkmate that you can't checkmate the king unless you're in the right corner. And by the right corner, it's the same colour as your bishop. So I'm going to use the king and the bishop to keep the black king in a cage in that right corner. And I've put my knight in the city place here on A1 because I don't need the knight for a bit. I'll go king E6. Okay. Now notice my bishop is controlling all of these squares. So by moving my king to E6, I'm then controlling the D7 and F7 squares. So the black king has nowhere to go there. Okay. It can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 4, 5, doesn't matter. 5 moves for the black king to get to H5 and finally threaten to get out that cage. But I just say, and control those 2 squares. So every 5 moves black has, I just need to play 1 to get back to exactly the same position by symmetry. Okay, there's kind of like 8 different same positions by the symmetry of the chessboard. And that king on H5, white king on F5 is the same position. Imagine getting the chessboard and sort of flipping it like that. It's the same position. If you're doing a king and a queen checkmate, by the way, you would recognise the symmetry. It doesn't matter whether your queen's cutting the black king off on the 8th rank, the H file, the A file. It doesn't matter if it's on the left or the right, your king. We can all do that. We just bring our king in opposite and checkmate. We know how to do that. With the bishop and the knight, it's harder to recognise the 8-fold symmetry that's going on. But it is the same position, basically. So the point is for every 5 moves black makes with their king, I just need 1, which gives me 4 spare moves every 5. I probably only need the first 4. Okay? But just to point out how that black king is completely in a cage, let's just move my knight just randomly around the board. Okay. Is the black king ever going to go to H5, I wonder? Let's see. Let's see what it does. It does eventually go to H5. So I've put my knight in all sorts of stupid places there. The black king's still refusing to go to H5. Go on, go to H5. And there you go. Okay, so I've played 10 moves there. 9 of them were stupid moves with the knight. The only sensible move I played was that king move to keep the black king in its cage. Rather than wasting those 9 stupid moves with my knight, what I want to do is bring my knight to the e5 square. And when I bring my knight to the e5 square, which I shall do... so I was looking for the quickest route to the e5 square. There it is. I can even pre-move it. Okay. My bishop is controlling all of these squares. And my knight is controlling... those squares. So now, the black king is completely caged in by the bishop and the knight. And just to make that point, I mean, I'm only on move 12, and it's 50 moves before it's a draw. I'm going to move my king all round the board. There we go. I'm going to go to A8. What do you got to say about that, Stockfish? Stockfish is taking a while to move here. I'm not quite sure why, but... okay, so maybe I won't go to A8, but you get the point. Okay, that the black king is completely in a cage. So rather than go to A8, let's actually do something a bit more sensible, which is to come and make some progress. It's like, well, hey, you're in a cage. Like, how do you actually do anything with this cage? I'll tell you what, I'll come back to F3. Surely we'll go King H5. Great. So my knight's controlling these squares. My bishop's controlling these squares. Okay. And what I'm going to do is chase the black king back to G8. I'm going to start taking away the H5 square, the H6 square, and then yeah, I'll leave the H7 square for now. But when the black king goes, what I call it, round the corner to G8, well, let's see it, because my king's going to be in by then, and the black king won't be able to come back to H6. I am going to stop it coming to F8. I'm going to be playing bishop to E7 to guard the F8 square. Now that relinquishes control of G7, sorry, but by that stage my king's close. Okay, so let's just do that. There's so many colours on the board there, I wasn't going to... So I can pre-move this, because in each case black's only got one legal move. And I can even pre-move that, because King G8 again is the only legal move. The black king will probably come back to G7. Then I can come opposite it. If the black king goes back, I'll follow it in. Okay, it didn't, it went to H7. But now what I want to do is get my bishop onto this diagonal. Bishop F8, I can pre-move bishop H6. Okay, my knight's guarding F7 the whole time. And now my king comes in. And this cage is quite something now. Okay. There's your cage created by the king and the bishop by themselves. We just need to move the knight to a place, well, it's going to be checkmate very soon, basically. So I'll move my knight to D7. And my next two moves are this one and this one, to be played in the order of check, of course. Okay, I've actually found that when I sort of mess around online and sort of a bit cheeky, but I quite often just, if I'm playing someone who's not necessarily the greatest chess player, I will actually just deliberately promote to bishops and knights just to practice this and have a bit of fun. I actually find that it's more common here that you play the knight check first and then bishop to G7. But in this case it's bishop G7 followed by knight F6 mate. Okay, so that's the right corner cage and the procedure for finishing off the checkmate from there. So let's move on to what I would call the wrong corner cage. We can't checkmate the black king in the wrong corner. Okay, but I have got a wrong corner cage here. My bishop is controlling these squares. My king is controlling these squares. So the black king only has these moves to go back and forth in. So once you've got that wrong corner cage, which I've got here, I need to work out how am I going to get the black king into the right corner. Okay, so you've got to have a procedure to get the black king from the wrong corner into the right corner. And now I basically am following exactly what it says in the book of Jesus, effectively. I'm going to bring my knight. Actually, so I'm not yet. Sorry, I'm in a minute. I will be. The thing that I sort of made up myself, although I'm sure other people have thought of this before, is I'm going to bring my knight to the e6 square. The reason I want to bring my knight to the e6 square is I want to control d8 and c7. I want to control those two squares because I want to bring my knight to c7 to control the a8 square. But the reason I want to control the d8 square in the meantime is I might have to play a waiting move with the bishop back on this diagonal, and I'll be giving up control of d8 if I do that. So let's just bring my knight to the e6 square. Let's just find a path to e6. I can pre-move all of that. Now, sometimes I might have to play a waiting move here. If black's got their king on a8 or c8, I would have to just bring my bishop back anywhere on this diagonal. It doesn't matter where, because it's coming back to a7 in a minute anyway. In this case, I don't need a waiting move. When the king's on b8, I can bring my knight straight to c7, which controls the a8 square, and I can pre-move bishop a7 because king c8 was forced. King d8 is now forced. And at this point, I'm kind of doing what's known as the W. I don't complete the W, but this is the famous W, which is referred to when you're doing a sort of a bishop and a knight checkmate. Anyway, so knight back to d5, going to control the e7 square. Let's see what black does here. Okay, so king c8 is actually the easier one because black's not really threatening to run away. So I'll convert this. I'll get the king into the right corner cage, and then I will come back and give Stockfish another chance to instead play king e8, which is harder because the king's threatening to run away. Okay, so if the king goes to c8, we play knight e7 check, king d8 is forced, so I can pre-move king d6. And then king e8 is forced, so I can pre-move king e6. The black king will probably come back to d8, and then I can check. Okay. King back to e8. Now in a minute I'm going to be bouncing my bishop off the d8 square and sticking it on f6, and I've got the right corner cage. When I get that right corner cage, I'm going to be moving my knight to the e5 square. Okay, so I need to move my knight to the e5 square. Be very careful here. Do not play knight g6. You just stalemated the black king. Okay, but I do want my knight on e5, and the black king cannot move to d8. Okay, so if I play knight c6, which is what I'm about to play, king f8 is forced. I will pre-move bishop d8 as well. Okay, so king f8 is forced, bishop d8, and then I've got the right corner cage. My bishop's coming to f6, and my knight's coming to e5. And I'll just go and follow that king in exactly the same way as before. So king here, king h5 presumably. All of these moves are now pre-moved. King's about to go around the corner to g8. When it does so, I'll play bishop e7. Notice how black's only got one legal move each time, so I can just pre-move. It's king back to g7, and we're following the same stuff as before. Probably go king h7, bishop back to h6. We'll probably see king g8, then king h7 here. King h7 I predict. There you go. King back, don't really care where. Knight's coming here, and my next two moves are this one and this one in the order of check. Okay, this time it's happened the other way around. I'll play knight f6 check first, and then bishop g7 checkmate. Right, let's go back though. I'm not going to finish off that checkmate, because that would just be the second time. I want to go back here and give Stockfish another chance to play king e8. Come on. E. Okay, now we follow the king. But it's trickier this time, because he's going to play king f7, and he's threatening to get out. Okay, it's almost like you're messing it up. We've got to cover the g6 square, and this is where you do the second stage of the W. You play knight to e7. Okay. Now most humans at that point will play king f6. When they do that, you play bishop to e3, and you pre-move bishop g5. Because when your bishop's on e3, your knight's covering these two squares, your bishop's covering these ones, so if the black king is on f6, it has to move back to f7 or g7, and bishop g5 is going to be fine. This king g7 move by Stockfish has anticipated that, and it's quite clever, because when I play bishop back to e3, I want to be stopping this, by the way. My knight's controlling these squares, I need my bishop back controlling those ones to stop that king getting out. I'm going to play bishop e3. I'm pretty sure he's going to play king f6, and then I'm just going to play a waiting move on this diagonal. I'm predicting king f6 here. There it is, and now I can pre-move bishop g5, because the king has to go back to either f7 or g7. Now, if the king goes that way, you just follow it in. As soon as the black king goes back up to the 8th rank, the g6 square is temporarily not a problem. But the black king's threatening to go this way, so we need to recover not recover as in recuperate, but cover again, the d8 square. But then black king will come back to f7, and we need to cover g6. Okay, so we just maneuver the knight around like that. That's going to stop the black king getting out, and by the knight coming to e5, we're now controlling. The knight's controlling those squares, the bishop is controlling those squares. The knight and the bishop are forming that cage by themselves. So all I need to do now is follow the king in that way. So let's do that. By the way, you could actually, I could bring my bishop to f6 here, which is the right corner cage. You can see that with the bishop and knight. But I've already got, because my king's already on this side, I've already got my knight and bishop in a very good place, so I can just follow the king in now. I want to play bishop h6 here, but I can't, so I need to play a waiting move. I anticipated that waiting move a minute ago, and that's why I went king e8 instead of king e7. Bishop back here. He'll probably be king g8. Oh, all right, king f7. That's my next move. That's going to be a check, and that's going to be a checkmate. Okay. So that's how you get the king from the wrong corner to the right corner, wrong corner cage to the right corner cage, and checkmate it from there. So all that remained really is, how do you get the king into the wrong corner? And for that I've set up this position. It doesn't take much, by the way, to get the black king to the side of the board. But if the defending side is obstinate, which they will be, trying to defend this, they're going to make it hard for you to get them into even the wrong corner. Although I've actually found that sometimes people do make a beeline for the wrong corner, assuming that you can't do it, and then you just do it. Okay, so I absolutely can, as you've seen, do a bishop and knight checkmate from the wrong corner to the right corner and finish it off. So some people just make your life easier by going straight for the wrong corner, thinking they'll be safe there. And maybe they will against many people, but not against us, because we've learned how to do it. But the best thing they can do is just be obstinate and not let you get them into any corner to begin with. So the wrong corner is over here. By the way, if they go towards the right corner, thinking they're being obstinate, at some stage you just sort of cut in and say, all right, I'll get you in the right corner. You've gone into the right corner cage. But in the wrong corner, I think of this square here. And just like that first bit with the right corner cage, I just use the king and the bishop. And for every 5 moves the black king makes to try and get out of the cage, I just need to make 1 to keep it in the cage. And it's, rather than a 5-1 this time round, it's a 6-3. Okay, I can do a 6-3 with the bishop, and that's going to give me 3 spare moves with the knight every 6 moves, although you probably only need the first 3. Okay, and this is all to do with this big wrong corner square over here. So my bishop is controlling all of these squares, and I'm going to move my king to e6, so it's now controlling those 2 squares, and the black king has to start moving this way. Okay, and I'm just going to play some random moves with the knight to begin with. Let's just put the knight back here. Okay, so the king's starting to get out. Just some random moves with the... Oh, sorry, I wasn't meant to do that. Once the black king's gone there, I now come to d5. Go on, please finish this off for me. So I've played one move with the king. Let's just do another silly move with the knight. That was annoying. I was hoping that the black king was going to go king b5. I play bishop c5. So that's another one move I've had to make with the bishop or the king. Black then plays king there, and I have to follow the king in. So that was 3 moves altogether. I've had to play with my king and my bishop. To ignore the knight, that's exactly the same cage, but with a sort of, what's it called? Reflection symmetry. As I mentioned already, there's like 8 different ways of getting the same position by the symmetry of the chessboard. But that was it. That was the sort of the general setup. The 3 moves for every 6. Stockfish has decided to sort of go into the corner a little bit. And rather than making silly moves with the knight, what I want to do is bring my knight to the e4 square. I was hoping he'd come over here, but he hasn't come over there. Oh, for God's sake. That's annoying, isn't it? Yeah, Stockfish is making it too easy for me here. I want to do something a bit more obstinate than this. Let's just go back to the beginning. Let's see if it just does something. Let's see if I can get it to... If I move my knight over here, whether it can... I'll go there. Come on, let's try and come down to a4 or something. Yeah. Oh well. I'm just going to move my knight to e4. That's where I want to get my knight. So whilst I'm doing this, like 3 moves for every 6, I'm just going to bring my knight to e4. I'm hoping that he doesn't just put his king back in the corner, because it's very annoying. Give him one last try. Yeah, what it is, you see, is that if the king comes this way, the engine's worked out a way that white can get you into the right corner cage quicker than my procedure, and that's why he's gone that way, deliberately heading towards the wrong corner. So more obstinate would be to come this way. But the reason I want my knight here is that if the king's over in sort of this area of the board, and our bishop, we've got our bishop here and the king's come here, we can bring our knight to the c3 square and control those 2. And if the king's up here, we could bring our knight to the f6 square and control those 2. Okay, and once the knight and the bishop, imagine the knight's on f6 actually. So if the knight's on f6, we're controlling those 2 squares, and the bishop's controlling these squares, and that gives the king freedom to sort of come over here. It's another sort of cage. And we're going to force the black king this way, and we're going to set up that wrong corner cage. It looks like Stockfish is making it slightly easier for us. I don't know, let's come this way. Maybe we'll see that actually. Maybe we'll go king c8 here. No, just gone straight into the corner. Although we've got to be careful here actually. Not to stalemate it. Okay, so we're going to get the same cage. But the symmetry thing I was talking about is that it's now this area of the board. Okay, so that's the squares that that black can go to, and we've set up the wrong corner cage. But yeah, that was the thing that I do. I think about this square, get the knight to the e4 square, so it's ready to either go to f6 and control those two, and then your king can sort of come in this way, or c3 and control those two, and then your king can sort of come in this way. Have I done that right? Yeah, I think I have. It's quite an entertaining picture. It's one for the Tate Modern, isn't it, at this stage? Where are we? So they've just played king a8. Okay, yeah, so we've already got them in the wrong corner cage. And remember, I want to bring my knight to here. Okay, so let's do that. Excuse me. I can pre-move knight c4 here. Now, is this... oh, good. This is... I now have to play a waiting move. I'm pleased about that because it's something I demonstrated. So the bishop anywhere on this diagonal. Notice my c4 knight is controlling a5. So king b8 is now forced. That was a waiting move I had to play on this diagonal with the bishop. And then we go knight here, bishop here. All of black's moves are forced, so I can pre-move this, I can pre-move this. Here's the... this is the W. The famous W. Black's gone for the slightly harder way of doing things, where you now follow the king. It's going to try and make an escape over here. Okay. So you bring your knight in to guard that square. It'll probably play the clever king b2 move. Okay, because remember, if king c3, well, whatever actually, we're going to play bishop to f4 to control those two squares. The knight's already controlling those two. Now it will play king to c3. We move the bishop back anywhere on this diagonal, and then we can pre-move bishop d2. Okay, because the black king has to move to either b2 or b3. So bishop anywhere, pre-move bishop d2. It'll probably play king b3, and it'll probably now play king a4. Oh, okay, but it's gone off the, not the second rank, but the b file. So I can do this and come back and recover the c2 square. Okay, so notice that the knight's controlling those squares, the bishop's controlling those ones, and a5 as it happens, but I don't care because the king's about to now follow the black king in to its little cage. That cage is getting smaller and smaller. I'm going to anticipate a waiting move here. I'm going to king b2, I suspect. King b4. He'll probably play king a2. I'm not going to pre-move that because he could have played king b1. I can pre-move that though. King a2 probably. Oh, let me come in straight away then. Knight comes here. And then I'm going to deliver knight c3 and bishop b2 in whichever order is necessary to deliver the checkmate. So that's it. That's one way of doing the bishop and knight checkmate. Right corner cage, you can do everything with the king and the bishop and then bring the knight into the right place. Wrong corner cage and getting them to the right corner cage, covered that. And then it's just setting up that wrong corner cage, thinking of that big square into the wrong corner, stick the knight on the corner of it so it's ready to go whichever way is necessary. That's enough, by the way. Hope everybody's like that, and that does your bishop and knight checkmate. The only thing I will say is that my procedure is not optimal at all, and if the position was set up in a very sort of extreme way, so imagine my bishop was on h8, my king was on g7, and my knight was on g8 or whatever, and the black king was on, I don't know, e5. That looks a pretty long-winded way of getting to the checkmate. My procedure might be in danger of hitting the 50 move rule. It's never happened to me. I've always been able to do it inside the 50 moves. But it might be. So I'd need to maybe modify it slightly and try and recognise, rather than just following as a method that definitely works. I might have to sort of work out ways to accelerate it. But hey, we're talking about, first of all, ending up in a bishop and knight checkmate situation, which apparently is a 1 in 2,000 chance. And then it has to be an extreme situation where, like, why would your bishop be on h8, your knight on g8, and your king on g7? It's never going to be a problem. This procedure is going to be good enough. Like I said, I've had it in a congress and converted it very easily. So yeah, that's it.